Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force JTF. My name is Chaim Ben Pesach. Why do we support India against Pakistan in the conflict between India and Pakistan? A number of reasons. First of all, Muslim terrorist Pakistan has nuclear bombs. They've had nuclear bombs since the 1990s. When Bill and Hillary Clinton were in the White House, they allowed Pakistan and North Korea to develop nuclear bombs, which was one of the examples of why the Clinton presidency was so dangerous and disastrous, and we may yet pay a terrible price for the fact that the Clintons were in the White House. But Pakistan in the 1990s developed nuclear bombs, and they've had nuclear tests, and there's no question they have nuclear weaponry. India, which is Pakistan's traditional enemy, and which is a predominantly Hindu country, also has nuclear bombs. Now, Pakistan has not shared her nuclear bombs with Muslim terrorist organizations yet. And the reason the Pakistanis are not sharing their nuclear bombs with Muslim terrorist organizations is because the Pakistanis primarily are worried right now about India. India, right on Pakistan's border, has a much larger number of nuclear bombs. The Indians have far more nuclear bombs than Pakistan, bigger nuclear bombs in Pakistan, more powerful and more accurate nuclear bombs in Pakistan. So the Pakistanis are worried about that. And so because of their concern about India, their historic enemy, they have not shared nuclear bombs and their nuclear secrets with Muslim terrorist organizations as far as we know. But what they are doing is sharing the nuclear technology with Iran and helping Iran develop nuclear bombs. If they help Iran develop nuclear bombs and Iran is able to become a nuclear power, God forbid, Iran will immediately share that technology with the Muslim terrorist organizations that Iran has sponsored for decades. Iran intends to develop nuclear bombs and intends to share that technology and share those weapons with Muslim terrorist organizations and enable the Muslim terrorist organizations to smuggle those nuclear bombs into the United States and to set them off and to murder millions of innocent Americans if they can get away with it. That is what the Iranians want to do. They are insane. And Pakistan is helping the mullahs, the ayatollahs, the imams of crazy Iran develop nuclear bombs. Pakistan already has nuclear bombs, and they're teaching the Iranians how to develop it. They provided the hundreds of centrifuges to Iran. And so we have a situation here where Pakistan is responsible for spreading this nuclear cancer to other Muslim terrorist nations. And let's understand just how dangerous Pakistan is. Osama bin Laden is in Pakistan right now. And Al-Qaeda is operating out of Pakistan right now, even though American taxpayers are giving the Pakistanis billions of dollars, are arming the Pakistani military, are keeping Musharraf, the Pakistani dictator, in power. And while they're doing this, you have Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden roaming freely throughout the mountains of northern Pakistan and operating right out of Pakistan. And the Pakistanis are supporting, as they always have. They've always been the #1 supporters of the Taliban in Afghanistan. To this day, the Taliban in Afghanistan are murdering American soldiers in Afghanistan, and the Pakistanis are supporting them, while American taxpayers are backing Pakistan. And while the American military is arming and training the Pakistani army is assisting the Taliban terrorists who are murdering American soldiers in Afghanistan. And if that isn't crazy enough, the Pakistani regime has a massive campaign of terrorism that they're perpetrating against India. India, by the way, is a democracy. Pakistan is a brutal dictatorship. Pakistan is waging a massive terrorist campaign and has murdered thousands of innocent Indian men, women, and children in Kashmir, which is part of northern India. The Pakistanis demand that India surrender Kashmir, even though it's part of northern India. And the Pakistanis have engaged in a terrorist campaign throughout India, even in southern and central India. Bombs go off all the time. The Pakistani Muslim terrorist regime is sponsoring constant terrorist attacks against the people of India. There have been several wars between Pakistan and India, and the Pakistanis are responsible for murdering millions of Indian Hindus. Since the 1940s, the Pakistani Muslim terrorists have murdered millions of innocent Indian Hindu men, women, and children, just because they're not Muslim. And so you have a regime in Pakistan that has already committed a Holocaust against the Hindus in India. And this is, to have people who have committed a Holocaust and believe in this insane Islamic religion and are sharing their technology with Iran and are supporting the Taliban terrorists in Afghanistan and are allowing Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda to operate out of northern Pakistani mountains, to have them armed to the teeth with all types of nuclear bombs and nuclear weapons, because Pakistan is the only Muslim country in the world that currently has nuclear bombs, to have them with nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons, and nuclear know-how is unbelievably dangerous. To show you how cruel, how vicious, how Nazi-like the Pakistani Muslims are, and this is what the Islamic religion teaches people to do, to show you how evil and cruel they are. Pakistan at one time occupied Bangladesh. Bangladesh is another Muslim country. And the Pakistanis occupied Bangladesh and referred to Bangladesh as East Pakistan. Bangladesh was called, until 1971, Bangladesh was East Pakistan, and what is today Pakistan was called West Pakistan. The Pakistani army murdered 3 million Bengali Muslims in the 1971 civil war that took place. 3 million of their fellow Muslims were murdered by a Muslim army, by the Pakistani Muslim army that the United States taxpayers are supporting. They murdered 3 million of their fellow Muslim men, women, and children. And why is this so important? Because if this is what they do to each other, if they're willing to murder millions of their fellow Muslims, of people who believe in the same religion as they do, speak the same language, the Bengalis and the Pakistanis, they speak the same language. They're basically the same race, even though the Pakistanis think they're superior. They're basically the same race. They speak the same religion. They speak the same language. They worship the same religion. And the Pakistanis murdered 3 million men, women, and children in Bangladesh in the most brutal Holocaust. A Holocaust that we never learn about. A Holocaust perpetrated by Muslims against other Muslims. And there have been many Holocausts that Muslims have perpetrated against their fellow Muslims. And so when the Muslims promise to exterminate us and talk about death to America and setting off nuclear bombs in America and doing a 9/11 with nuclear bombs the next time, when the Muslims speak like this against America, when they make these threats, let's understand they are very serious. If they have the capacity to do this, they will do this against us. And we know that they're willing to perpetrate holocausts because they've already perpetrated holocausts against their own people. If they're willing to do that against their fellow Muslims, they're obviously also willing to do it against the non-Muslim infidels whom they hate with a passion. And whom their religion, the Islamic religion, teaches them to hate. The Islamic religion teaches Muslims to hate all non-Muslim infidels. Anyone who is not a Muslim is a dog, a pig, a devil, according to the Quran and the Hadith, the books of Islam. And so we have a very serious threat here. The Pakistanis perpetrated a Holocaust against their fellow Muslims in Bangladesh. They perpetrated a Holocaust against the Indian Hindus. They're armed to the teeth with nuclear bombs. They're sharing their nuclear technology with Iran. They're assisting the Taliban terrorists who are murdering American soldiers right now in Afghanistan. They're perpetrating terrorist acts against India in Kashmir and in other parts of India, setting off bombs and murdering innocent Indians. I mean, this is unbelievable that we are supporting a country like this and a people like this. That's why we support India. And that's why this is important. And by the way, the fact that Pakistan has not yet shared, as far as we know, has not yet shared their technology with Muslim terrorist organizations, their nuclear technology, doesn't mean that they won't in the future. This is a very dangerous situation. Something has to be done, and we should not be supporting Pakistan. The opposite should happen. We should have a pro-India policy, and we should not be supporting that evil regime, and we should be demanding that they dismantle their entire nuclear program because it's a threat to all of Western civilization. And we should cut off all aid to them and everything else to them and push to get them to dismantle their nuclear program immediately, because this really is a threat to us. Join with us. Help us expose the truth before it's too late. Shalom.